Start it off.
Can I do a sound check? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
I
great.
didn't know when I put my headphones if that messed anything up.
Mm. Blah, blah. Here we go.
Blah blah.
Oh my God, Lee's here. What's up, Lee?
Yeah, I'm still alive.
I don't care about the rest of you guys. Oh.
Wow, thanks, Willie.
We love you too.
Hi, Dana Park Dan. Hi, everyone. We're just going to give everyone a couple minutes to filter in to the live now that it is going. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves while that happens. And hi, everyone. We're just
It's oh,
Oh, I have somebody has echo.
Does someone have an echo?
I heard myself.
it's gone now.
twice.
Yeah, I heard Callie echo as well, but I haven't heard it again.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee, if you want to talk real quick, and I can talk.
I was just gonna say, is there a post that we can share on stuff to say that we are live now?
Yeah, on the Voices of Arda account, there's a few posts you could share, just saying like 4 p.m.
Cool.
Or you just share your nice face and be like, hey, I'm reading at 4 p.m., you know?
We have
Hi,
Daniel
Kaya.
Park Dan and Katie here.
Hey Dan, hey Katie.
What's up?
All right, people like showing up. Yeah. Oh, a ninth person just came in. Woo!
9. We have a full fellowship in the comments.
Nice.
I sometimes get distracted when I have the live up. Like,
You start watching it.
How is everybody? We good?
Good.
pretty good.
Not everyone all at
Yeah.
once.
It's kind of the
Busy.
start of my day, to be honest. This is the first thing I'm doing today, and then
Oh, what a wonderful
That's
way
funny
to
'cause
start the day.
this is the last thing I'm doing because it's 9 p.m. here.
those time zones, they can be
I know,
crazy.
right?
Man.
We're living different lives.
Yep. You're living in the past, man.
I just got done doing a podcast with the Queer Lodgings. It was really, really, really dope. So
I love that
Nice.
podcast.
Yeah.
they're good folks over there. So
Mhm.
We had dinner with them after Dragon
absolutely,
Con, didn't we? Yeah.
you got brought up on the podcast, and we had a little fun conversation about you.
Oh
So
no. Oh no, I'm scared now.
oh no, good things. All good things with all you folks.
I
I was
believe
like,
you.
whatever you do, don't follow Kaya. Kaya K is the worst. Don't follow her. Everybody else is cool. but-
Honestly, same. I don't know why she even makes content anymore.
No,
So
just
fucking annoying.
lots of love. Shout out to you guys. So no, they're awesome.
All right, everyone. I guess if we want to get started, this seems like a wonderful time.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Voices of Arda. We are doing a special collaboration with the one, the only, Jordan Randalls. What's up, Jordan? How you doing?
Good, good.
Woo!
Happy to
Yes.
be here.
If you guys are not familiar with Jordan, he is the creator of a long expected soundscape, magnificent soundscapes for your readings, and that is what we'll be doing today. We'll be reading excerpts from The Lord of the Rings, and we are about to kick things off. So, first and foremost, I want to say that we have a special code for our readers. So don't forget to you put it in, and you can put the code in for Jordan Soundscapes, and you get a discount if I'm not mistaken. Jordan, can you explain that a little bit for us?
Yeah, you'll get a discount code on my website. I'll put my website in the chat here. And you can use the code ARDA.
2025.
Yeah, there you go. And that works for anything in any of the soundscapes on my website. So you can
And
dive in.
absolutely recommend them. They go great, and it makes the readings go extra hard. He worked really hard collecting these sounds, and we are going to show you an example of that today with our readings. So if let's begin. What I want you guys to do is make sure you guys have your headphones on so you can, I'll give you a second to put on your headphones so you can get that full effect. It's like, remember when they put the Rumble Pack in Nintendo 64? Like, it's like that. It's like that. You know what I mean? So it really brings you into the world and it makes it more immersive. And are going to begin. So does everybody have their headphones on?
Before we
Okay, so
start, Katie is wondering if the code is for only folks in the chat, or is it a public code to promote?
You can promote it for sure.
Nice.
you can promote the code.
Spread the word.
All right. All right. So hopefully everyone is got their headphones on. I believe we are going to begin our readings with The Ring Goes South from the Fellowship of the Ring. It's chapter 3.
All right. Ready to roll?
And we have our narrator.
All right, we ready?
Ooh.
Elrond summoned the hobbits to him. He looked gravely at Frodo.
Give me a second here.
Our Frodo?
If the ring, the time has come, he said. If the ring is set out, it must go soon. But those who go with it must not count on their errand being aided by war or force. They must pass into the domain of the enemy, far from aid. Do you still hold to your word, Frodo, that you will be the ring bearer?
I do.
Okay, said Frodo.
I will go with Sam.
Then I cannot. Oh,
Then I cannot help you much, not even with counsel, said Elrond. I can foresee very little on your road, and how your task is to be achieved, I do not know. The shadow has crept now to the feet of the mountains and draws nigh even to the borders of the Grey Flood. And under the shadow, all is dark to me. You will meet many foes, some open and some disguised, and you may find friends upon your way when you least look for it. I will send out messages such as I can contrive to those whom I know in the wide world. But so perilous are the lands now become that some may well miscarry, or come no quicker than you yourself. And I will choose you companions to go with you, as far as they will or fortune allows. The number must be few, since your hope is in speed and secrecy. Had I a host of elves in armor of elder days, it would avail little, save to arouse the power of Mordor. The company of the ring shall be 9, and the 9 walkers shall be set against the 9 riders that are evil. With you and your faithful servant Gandalf will go, for this shall be his great task, and maybe the end of his labors. For the rest, they shall represent the other free peoples of the world, elves, dwarves, and men. Legolas shall be for the elves, and Gimli, son of Glóin, for the dwarves. They are willing to go at least to the passes of the mountains, and maybe beyond. For men, you shall have Aragorn, son of Arathorn, for the ring of Isildur concerns him closely.
Strider?
cried Frodo.
Yes.
He said with a smile.
I ask leave once again to be your companion, Frodo.
I would have begged you to come.
Said Frodo.
Only I thought you were going to Minas Tirith with Boromir.
I am.
Said Aragorn.
And the sword that was broken shall be reforged ere I set out to war. But your road and our road lie together for many hundreds of miles. Therefore Boromir will also be in the company. He is a valiant man.
There remain 2 more to be found, said Elrond. These I will consider. Of my household, I may find some that it seems good to me to send, but I will leave no place.
But I will leave no place for us, cried Pippin. You don't want to be left behind. You want to go with Frodo.
That is because you do not understand and cannot imagine what lies ahead.
Said Elrond.
Lee.
Neither does Frodo.
Said Gandalf. unexpectedly supporting Pippin.
Nor do any of us see clearly. It is true that if these hobbits understood the danger, they would not dare to go, but they would still wish to go, or wish that they dared, and be shamed and unhappy, I think. Elrond, that in this manner it would be well to trust rather to their friendship than to great wisdom. Even if you chose for us an elf lord such as Glorfindel, he could not storm the Dark Tower, nor open the road to the fire by the power that is in him.
You speak gravely,
Said Elrond.
but I am in doubt. The Shire I forebode is not free now from peril. And these two I had thought to send back there as messengers to do what they could according to the fashion of their country to warn the people of their danger. In any case, I judge that the younger of these two, Peregrine Took, should remain. My heart is against his going.
Then Master Elrond, you will have to lock me in prison, or send me home tied in a sack, said Pippin. I shall follow.
Let it be so then. You shall go, said Elrond, and he sighed. Now the tale of 9 is filled. In 7 days the company must depart. The sword of Elendil was forged.
And that is the end of our first reading.
A lot of fun.
Hiccupy.
It's okay. It's still fun to read to. It's so epic.
Awesome.
Now,
But,
do we want to pause and talk about it, or do we want to do all of our readings and then have our little discussion at the end?
Up to you all.
I'm cool with talking about it. I mean, it's up to you guys. I don't know unless you guys know.
Somebody
Jordan,
needs
do
to
you
make
have
a
any
decision.
comments that you want to share of like what?
Jordan,
know?
share with us how you.
It'll probably be a little bit easier to chat a little bit and then
Yeah.
go into the next one.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite pieces of music to write, I think, because there was, if you really go back and listen to all the hours of the soundscape before we get to this point, you'll hear individual themes for each member of the fellowship. And in this moment, we finally start to hear them all play together. And then we finally get the first version of my fellowship theme that hits right there at the end with the horns. So it was really a lot of fun to kind of build each one of them into it. Contrasting it to what Howard Shore did, I really wanted the fellowship theme to have a little motif from everyone in the fellowship, you know? And then it kind of coalesces into a new theme at the end. So yeah, really a lot of fun building up to that. But that's the first time that we hear the fellowship theme in full, which is really cool. And
I
is
really
the
like
same
that
in
as
the
a
movies.
concept that you took of having like all the different themes for each character come together to make the fellowship theme. I really love that idea, and I think it works really well.
Yeah, really cool. And they all have different kind of musical purposes, you know. Gimli's is really low and brassy, and a lot of the flute layers are Pippin and Merry and things like that, you know. So they all have their purpose in the score there.
It's very thematic to Tolkien as well, because we think even about the creation, the music of the Ainur. It's very on par with it, but it's also like it almost feels like symphony building here, where you're building parts. Where yes, it's very on brand with the Fellowship, but also musically makes sense too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it sounds very
Yeah.
Tolkien-esque. And then we have Lee
Like it-
coming in with her deep voice as Gandalf.
I am very
Oh, wow.
suited to doing a gruff old man voice.
I loved how like I'm just reading. Like I'm not necessarily the person that's going to be like, oh, 7 years ago. Like I'm not necessarily going to do the voice, but then Belmont hops in and just completely shows me up over here. Like I love that. Like you guys are like
What?
in character. I really liked it, man. I think it's so dope. I aspire to do that one day. I'll try to put a little more pep in my voice and sound more Elrond-esque.
I look forward
He's
to that.
just talking like that. He reads the Silmarillion so well when he reads the battle, so he's just
I think I put inflection in it, but I don't put like I'm the person. Like I just put like
you don't do voices, but yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm not
that
the
would be- when you read the stories, though, I enjoy it. Don't worry about that.
Listen, I'm trying to glaze you right now, man. Let me just
Don't do
go
it.
ahead.
Don't do it.
You know, New Better, D&D is a really good way to practice.
It would never happen. It would never happen.
No.
You guys tried to get me to read Tom Bombadil. It's not happening, guys. It's not happening.
I think you'd make a great Tommy Bomby.
Yeah,
I
me
do
too. I
too.
agree.
I think you need to
And
cosplay
everything.
him for Dragon Con.
Guess we know what you'll be
Nah.
reading for next Tolkien reading.
Mhm.
You can turn his songs into raps.
Yes. Oh my god,
That would be
Give
really
the people
cool.
what they
Actually.
want.
that would be cool.
That'd be very cool.
Okay.
That would be awesome. I'd love
Challenge
that.
accepted, Kaya.
We need to get Tim to lend you
Yay!
the costume.
Debate.
Let's
Well,
go.
I really appreciate that, Jordan. I love that you share some information on that, and that it's actually your favorite part, because now, like, when we listen to it, I'll be looking for the fellowship theme all the time, especially when we're looking at
Mhm.
specific characters, which I think is a good segue into our next part we're going to be reading. New Better, do you want to introduce it?
Give me a second here. This second part we're reading here is. Oh,
Organized as ever.
I know, right? All right. I have it right here. I just have to pull it up because there's a million things I was doing. All right. So the next part we will be reading is Welling Hall,
Yeah. Treebeard and
Welling
Welling
Hall.
Hall.
Book 3, Chapter 4, Treebeard. All
I
right.
think I'll be starting this off.
Let's make it
Right,
happen.
we're ready. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
I think we are. Treebeard strode up the slope, hardly slackening his pace. Suddenly before them the hobbits saw a wide opening. 2 great trees stood there, one on either side, like living gateposts, but there was no gate save their crossing interwoven boughs. As the old Ent approached, the trees lifted up their branches, and all their leaves quivered and rustled. For they were evergreen trees, and their leaves were dark and polished, and gleamed in the twilight. Beyond them was a wide level space, as though the floor of a great hall had been cut into the side of the hill. On either hand, the walls sloped upwards until they were 50 feet high or more, and along each wall stood an aisle of trees that also increased in height as they marched inwards. At the far end, the rock wall was sheer, but at the bottom it had been hollowed back into a shallow bay with an arched roof, the only roof of all the hall, save the branches of the trees, which at the inner end overshadowed all the ground, leaving only a broad open path in the middle. A little stream escaped from the springs above, and leaving the main water fell tinkling down the sheer face of the wall, pouring in silver drops like a fine curtain in front of the arched bay. The water was gathered again into a stone basin floor between the trees, and thence it spilled and flowed away beside the open path, out to rejoin the Entwash in its journey through the forest.
Here we are.
Said Treebeard, breaking his long silence.
I have brought you about 70,000 Ent strides. But what that comes to in the measurement of your land, I do not know. Anyhow, we are near the roots of the last mountain. Part of the name of this place might be Welling Hall, if it were turned into your language. I like it. We will stay here tonight.
He set them down on the grass between the aisles of the trees, and they followed him towards the great arch. The hobbits now noticed that as he walked, his knees hardly bent, but his legs opened in a great stride. He planted his big toes, and they were indeed big and very broad, on the ground first, before any part of his feet. For a moment, Treebeard stood under the rain of the falling spring and took a deep breath. Then he laughed and passed inside. A great stone table stood there, but no chairs. At the back of the bay, it was already quite dark. Treebeard lifted 2 great vessels and stood them on the table. They seemed to be filled with water, but he held his hands over them, and immediately they began to glow, one with a golden and the other with a rich green light, and the blending of the 2 lights lit the bay, as if the sun of summer was shining through a roof of young leaves. Looking back, the hobbits saw that the trees in the court had also begun to glow, faintly at first, but steadily quickening until every leaf was edged with light, some green, some gold, some red as copper, while the tree trunks looked like pillars molded out of luminous stone.
Well, well. Now we can talk again,
said Treebeard.
You are thirsty, I expect. Perhaps you are also tired. Drink this.
He went to the back of the bay, and then they saw that several tall stone jars stood there, with heavy lids. He removed one of the lids and dipped in a great ladle, and with it filled 3 bowls, 1 very large bowl and 2 smaller ones.
This is an ant house,
he said.
And there are no seats, I fear, but you may sit on the table.
Picking up the hobbits, he set them on the great stone slab, 6 feet above the ground, and there they sat, dangling their legs and drinking in sips. The drink was like water, indeed very like the taste of the draughts they had drunk from the Entwash near the borders of the forest, and yet there was some scent or savor in it which they could not describe. It was faint, but it reminded them of the smell of a distant wood borne from afar by a cool breeze at night. The effect of the draught began at their toes and rose steadily through every limb, bringing refreshment and vigor as it coursed upwards, right to the tips of the hair. Indeed, the hobbits felt that the hair on their heads was actually standing up, waving and curling and growing. As for Treebeard, he first laved his feet in the basin beyond the arch, and then he drained his bowl at 1 draught, 1 long, slow draught. The hobbits thought he would never stop. At last, he set the bowl down again.
Ah,
he sighed.
Now we can talk easier. You can sit on the floor, and I will lie down. That will prevent this drink from rising to my head and sending me to sleep.
I had no idea that Callie was Treebeard, I just didn't, I didn't know. I'm so sorry.
It was within her all along.
It's so
That
much
was
fun
dope.
to read.
That ending was like, that was on point.
That was fire. I love that. And I love the water effects, Jordan, that you did there.
Oh, yes.
That really engaged me with the reading. And I was like, oh shit. Like, and the pacing that you guys did, the practice is had to been awesome because Callie absolutely killed it. She read it right on pace, and then Miranda came through, and that was awesome. I really liked that reading.
That was a fun one. A lot of the music that you hear there are slower paced Hobbit themes or motifs, but played on the kind of Ent instruments. So that was a lot of fun to introduce some different instrumentation there. So a lot of reed instruments and things like that for the Ents, which was really cool. And yeah, the ambience is one of the fun things for Fangorn. there's a park a couple hours away from here that I recorded a lot of forest ambience at. So I took my 3D microphone out and recorded out there. But the cool thing about Fangorn is I took all that forest ambience and then I played it on an old school tape machine at a slower speed to pitch it down for Fangorn so that it feels a little bit more slow and kind of creaky
That's
and
so
things like
clever.
that. So
That's really
So
cool.
it matches the ends. That's
That's,
amazing. I love
It's the
that.
magic of movies right here. What's happening right now, guys? You're seeing greatness in the works. Now, Callie,
Like to think of things like that most people would just, it would never occur to people to do
Oh.
something like that. And then it's so clever.
that's what makes it
Callie,
fun.
what
is
inspired
trying to
your
figure
Treebeard
those out.
voice?
Yeah, that was brilliant.
I don't know. It just was welling up inside me, and it needed to come out. And the music really is inspiring, though. Like when I listened to that soundscape and was reading it, I felt like I was there, and I really felt like I was walking in a forest, and walking into an open glade all of a sudden. And like Nubetta said, the water sounds are like really fun
Yeah.
in that one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That
like
was
the
dope.
wind instruments and like how it's
Mhm.
the only word I can think to describe it is that it gave it almost a sense of whimsy, which I think goes really well with like Treebeard doing his magic on the water and the hobbits are drinking it, and it just fit really well with that.
There's
I
some
thought, yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I thought the same thing. Like when the music picked up exactly when Callie started like saying Treebird's lines, it was perfect. But also, to Lee's point about it, just adding a sense of whimsy and like playfulness to Treebeard that I don't think we saw really in the movies. Or I don't know if everybody reads that necessarily. I don't know if I did at that part exactly. So it was really cool. I totally agree with what Lee just said.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, this chapter alone in the audiobook and therefore in the soundscape is around 2 hours long. So there's a lot of just funny moments of like Treebeard nodding off or something like that, And then later on in the chapter when we get Bregalad, we have a whole different type of music theme that comes in there, which is even more whimsical. And he goes out and he's just laughing all the time. And I had a lot of fun putting in the kind of hums and hums in there. A lot of those are from the voice roll people that helped with my Kickstarter. So they submitted voice samples and I pitched them down and stuff like that so that you can kind of hear the sense of Treebeard throughout the whole thing. And really quickly for people that maybe aren't aware of the whole kind of function of the soundscape, the whole thing is timed perfectly with Andy Serkis's audiobook. So you can put the two of them together and get that experience in full. But you can also just listen to the soundscape, which is really fun for Treebeard, for chapters like Treebeard, where you'll
Honestly,
hear
that one,
him.
I was just sorry. It's
Oh,
just
go ahead.
with that, I was listening to it and I was imagining that I could just have that playing while I just lie there and listen to it
Totally.
and like have all those sounds and stuff wash over me.
And the water is a perfect example because in the 3D environment, it arcs over you from one side over to the other side. And so as you're listening without the narration, it'll be pretty clear where you are in the chapter, And there's a lot of moments like that where it just kind of unfolds around you. And there's quite a awesome March of the Ents at the end of that chapter too.
Oh man, that would be so neat.
We should have done that.
The whole thing is
The
like
whole
a
2 hour
solid.
chapter.
I think the whole March of the Ents is like a solid 18 minutes or something long.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah.
Well, never fear. We
amazing.
are about to get into some epicness. Now, I'm jealous because Callie didn't think to put me in this part, of course. All the good parts got given to Kaya and Lee and well-deserving people, unlike me.
Hey, I
So,
offered you to read as Treebeard, and you
oh no,
declined.
I said epicness.
He said, "I will only take Tom Bombadil lines from now
He
on."
did. He did say that. He did say
Said that on camera.
Fairy tales and false
Heard it.
propaganda,
Recorded.
guys. So next, guys, we're going to be getting into book 5, chapter 6, the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. Oh, Wow, amazing. So we're gonna begin with the reading of that. So whenever you guys are ready, Jordan.
All right, let's do it.
Kelly, do you want to start this one? Kelly?
I'm sorry, who am I doing?
Run that back, Jordan.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I thought I was only doing Frodo, but I can do whatever.
All right.
Or yeah, sorry, just because Miranda was did a huge part for Treebeard, but if you want to do but Theoden was not utterly
The
forsaken
narration, yeah.
to no man may hinder me.
I am so sorry, guys. I did not realize I
No,
was
no,
doing that,
no.
but I am very
you
happy
got-
to.
Yes.
It's all
Okay,
good, girl.
So the narrator.
So
Was
we're
it
not
on-
doing voices for this. You just
Oh, okay.
read straight through one paragraph, and then Lee will take up the middle part, and then Kaya will end us off with an epic ending.
So from the
Got
start
it.
till may hinder me.
Got it.
All right,
All right, I
let's
will.
do it.
I will. Yep.
Sorry, Kelly.
But Theoden was not utterly forsaken. The knights of his house lay slain about him, or else mastered by the madness of their steeds were borne far away. Yet one stood there still, Bernhelm the young, faithful beyond fear, and he wept, for he had loved his lord as a father. Right through the charge, Mary had borne unharmed behind him into the shadow came, and then Windfella had thrown him in his terror, and now ran wild upon the plain. Mary crawled on all fours like a dazed beast, and such a horror was on him that he was blind and sick. King's man, his heart cried within him. You must stay by him. As a father you shall be to me, you said. But his will made no answer, and his body shook. He dared not open his eyes or look up. Then, out of the blackness in his mind, he thought that he heard Dernhelm speaking. Yet now the voice seemed strange, recalling some other voice that he had known. Begone, foul Dimmerlake, lord of Carrion. Leave the dead in peace. The cold voice answered. Come not between the Nazgul and his prey, or he will not slay thee in thy turn. He will bear thee away to the houses of lamentation, beyond all darkness, where thy flesh shall be devoured, and thy shriveled mind be left naked to the lidless eye. A sword rang as it was drawn. Do what you will, but I will hinder it if I may. Hinder me, thou fool. No living man may hinder me.
Then Mary heard of all sounds in that hour the strangest. It seemed that Dernhelm laughed, and the clear voice was like the ring of steel. But no living man am I. You look upon a woman. Eowyn I am, Eowyn's daughter. You stand between me and my lord and kin. Begone, if you be not deathless. For living or dark undead, I will smite you if you touch him. The winged creature screamed at her, but the ringwraith made no answer and was silent, as if in sudden doubt. Very amazement for a moment conquered Mary's fear. He opened his eyes, and the blackness was lifted with them. There, some paces from him, sat the great beast, and all seemed dark about it, and above it loomed the Nazgul Lord, like a shadow of despair. A little to the left, facing them, stood she whom he had called Dernhelm, but the helm of her secrecy had fallen from her, and her bright hair, released from its bonds, gleamed with pale gold upon her shoulders. Her eyes, grey as the sea, were hard and fair, and yet tears were on her cheek. A sword was raised in her hand, and she raised her shield against the horror of her enemy's eyes. Eowyn it was, and Dernhelm also, For into Mary's mind flashed the memory of the face that he saw at the riding from Dunharrow, the face of one that goes seeking death, having no hope. Pity filled his heart, and great wonder, and suddenly the slow-kindled courage of his race awoke. He clenched his hand. She should not die, so fair, so desperate. At least, she should not die alone, unaided. The face of their enemy was not turned towards him, but still he hardly dared to move, dreading lest the deadly eyes should fall on him. Slowly, slowly he began to crawl aside, but the black captive, in doubt and malice intent upon the woman before him, heeded him no more than a worm in the mud. Suddenly the great beast beat its hideous wings, and the wind of them was foul. Again it leapt into the air, and then swiftly fell down upon Eowyn, shrieking, striking with beak and claw.
Hi, you're on mute.
Felix did not blanch, maiden of the firm, child of kings, under but as a steel blade, fair yet terrible. A swift stroke she killed instantly. The outstretched neck she clove asunder, and the huge fell like a stone. Backward she sprang, as the huge shape pressed forward, past the wings, her head trampled on her. Fall, the shadow passed away. A light fell up her, and her hair shone in the sun. Out of the wreck rose the Black Rider, tall and threatening, forward her. Quiet secret stung the very ears like venom that fell his mace. The shivered in many pieces, and her arm was broken. She stumbled to her knees. He bent over like a cloud, and his eyes glittered. He raised his mace to kill. But suddenly he too stumbled forward with a cry of bitter pain, and his vocal cry, driving into the ground. Mary sword him back behind, shearing through the black mantle and casting up his sword that had pierced behind his mighty knees. Eowyn, Eowyn, cried Mary, then tottering from the last strength he rode her sword from crown and mantle, as the great shoulders bowed before her. Sword broke, heart penny stars. Crown rolled away and with a clang. Face fell forward, fallen. The mantle and word were empty. Shapes they lay now on the ground, torn and tumbled, and a cry went up into the shuddering air, and faded. Body was and sin had died.
Wow, the sound effect.
Man, I got chills from that. Wow.
That was so much fun.
So cool.
Ooh.
That shriek. Where'd you get that shriek, Jordan?
That's what I was gonna ask.
There's a combination of sound effects that were used in there for sure. One of the most fun ones to mention, though, is when the Witch King finally is defeated, is actually our good friend Matt from Nerd of the Rings that did that one. So he's in there.
Shout out to Matt.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was probably one of the most time-consuming chapters to put together. You know, probably easily like, I want to say 10 to 15 layers of like just arrows shooting. And
about to say
then
there's
the same with
Clangs in the
horses.
background and
Yeah,
horses.
all
There's
those
a lot
all those
going
are
on there.
individual layers. Yeah. Yeah.
How did
There
you
was
do the
one bit that
horses?
sounded really good where it really felt like the horse had ran behind me as it was neighing. It's like,
Okay.
oh, it was so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
You
this
saw
is
you
one
get
of
scared.
those
You saw you get scared, Lee. Like, oh.
this is one of those ones where other than a small bit at the very start, because there's a bit of narration that happens at the start of the chapter, it goes mostly sound design, until until that Eowyn reveal that happens. So it's a really awesome one to kind of get the music out of the way and have just this sound effects.
I think that the best part was when Kaya started reading, but she was on mute, and then she realized she was on mute, and the face she made, it
That's
was
part.
priceless.
Oh, someone screenshotted that.
She was like, it was
Oh.
funny.
That's the face the Witch King made when he realized that he got.
Very topical humor here.
But Jordan, how did you do the horses? This is my special interest area.
I have a lot of horse sample libraries. So a lot of them they're either groups or individual horses and kind of mixed and moved around in my 3D Atmos stuff. I did do a little bit of recording again with my 3D microphone. I had a family friend who rides horses, and I gave him the microphone to hold as he was riding. You hear a lot of that more in like in Minas Tirith when we're on our way with Gandalf and Pippin, like when it's kind of on horseback perspective, if that makes sense. I use those samples for that because it feels like you're kind of on horseback with the perspective. So that's really cool. But yeah, a combination of things that I did myself or recorded or sample libraries that I have too. Yeah.
That is an amazing creative process. Like I can't even start, like that's incredible how you see things and hear things. That's amazing.
And these are perfectly timed with the audiobooks, right? Because I'm sure all of us probably read a little bit faster than audiobooks go.
Yeah. So if you were to open up one of my sessions that I built it in, the audiobook is there, so everything is lined up exactly with that. And I have on my website, you can download for free my syncing app. So if you have the Soundscape and if you have the audiobook, you can put the two of them together and have just a new MP3 that has the two of them put together, which is really nice and easy. That's been a lot of fun.
That's so dope, guys. Make sure, guys, remember we're using your codes, and you're gonna get Arda 2025, and you're gonna put that, and you're gonna get Jordan's soundscapes. And Jordan, I believe you're doing another soundscape. If I can plug you in real quick, let me know what that new soundscape you're working on is and when we can get it.
Yeah, so I've got a bunch of stuff on the go. Lord of the Rings is completely done. The Hobbit's completely done. The first book of The Wheel of Time is done. The first Harry Potter is done. A couple of the short stories from A Song of Ice and Fire, if anyone knows the Duncan Egg, which is going to be a show this year, those are in the works. The first one's done. I will ambitiously say, a week away from releasing the second Wheel of Time. We'll see about that. But the big thing is that on the 24th, I'm going to be launching my next Kickstarter. And that will be covering books 5 to 8 of the Wheel of Time, but it will also be including as a limited kind of thing that you can get. The Children of Hurin will be in there too, so some people might want to check that out for sure.
Check that out. Prepare to be sad. One question
I'll post the link.
Do you have the sounds of the Teglin in that book?
I assume I will. The awesome thing about that one is that it's going to be timed to Christopher Lee's narration.
It's
so
masterful.
that's going to be an awesome experience. I posted the link that it didn't quite link, but I posted it in the chat. But yeah, that's the big thing. I have my next Kickstarter coming, and yeah, that'll be Wheel of Time focused, but it's still helping me to work on Children of Hurin as well as the Silmarillion, which is in the works.
That was the one we were waiting for.
that was the one.
That's the one.
So the magic word.
Yeah, that one's already in the works for sure. I've got all the chapters outlined. I've started doing ambience for them. And if we know James Tauber from the Digital Tolkien Project, James and I are actually working on the score for that one together, which is really awesome.
Oh, wow.
That is awesome.
We've had most of our chats have been conceptualizing it, like how are we going to approach this, because it is such a different experience from Lord of the Rings in terms of perspective and when the perspective changes and how much time we pass in a paragraph or a sentence or things like that. So that one is going to be heavily music focused in comparison
Suppose
to
with that,
something
it's
like what we
there's
just
so
heard.
there's so many characters as well that I've wondered about. This is like, is it practical? Because I've wondered a lot about, like, possible adaptations of the Silmarillion, and it's led me to think about, so can you have a specific motif per character, or are there too many characters? And instead, do you have like a Feanorian motif and a House of Fingolfin motif and so on like that? So I guess
Those
that's all
are
the kind of stuff that you're having to deal with.
yeah, those are the exact kind of conversations that James and I have been having of what's too much, what's not enough, how do we frame things in a musical way that makes sense. Like as an example, in Lord of the Rings, Aragorn probably has like 5 or 6 different themes or variations of his theme that I wrote. And there's over 100 in that I wrote for different characters where, Frodo has a bunch, Pippin has a bunch. We heard the second iteration of Mary's theme in the last sample we listened to. But Bill the Pony has a theme. All this kind of stuff. Glorfindel gets a theme. But in the Silmarillion, yeah, we'll probably be approaching it a little bit differently in terms of groups of people. And I think that's probably my favorite part about all these things is conceptualizing it, right? Like thinking about not just with the music, but with the sound design and with the ambience and everything. Like, how am I going to approach it? If there's any Wheel of Time fans, I have to figure out how to, like, what does the World of Dreams sound like? What does in the Silmarillion, is there ambience when there's no world yet? Like how do I handle those types of things?
Now, of course,
Um,
Discord, how do you handle that?
and then I always mention this, the tricky part about the Aina Lindale is that uh, audiobook wise and text wise, it's actually very short. So there's not much time to get all that in there, you know what I mean? So that'll be a challenge for down the road. We'll get there eventually.
So we're here for it, guy, and we want to say, I think from all of us, we appreciate the hard work that you do, and allowing us to collab with you, guys. I want to make sure everybody knows that if you are in the chat right now, you can get any of Jordan's works. They are in the links that Callie is providing right now. So it says Voice of Order, and we have the link to Jordan's shop, and we also have the code. So for a discount, enter the code ARDA 2025. And make sure you are copying these soundscapes. They are amazing, awesome to read along with, and they're perfectly timed. So, Jordan, you are amazing. Thank you so much for doing this and allowing
Thank
us to be
you.
a part of this. Thank you so much, Callie, and all our Voices of Order readers that we have here for lending your time and your voices, and your efforts are great. Especially Kaya K, because I really loved when you and you did that. Your face, I want somebody please print that up and send it to me. I'm gonna like make it a
My new
sticker.
profile picture.
Like, but we all like literally, I'm joining, I'm like, I don't know where this go, like what time, like it's so funny. But when you see when you settle down with comfortable in our readings and we get going, it goes right along with the soundscape and it makes it epic. Like when you were reading the screech, it screeched it right at the perfect time. And I was like, that's is what it's all about. Because it just made you feel like, and that ick that the Witch King brings along, that fear. It was palatable through the reading and through his soundscape. So when those things are paired, it ends up being perfect, and it ends up immersing you deeply in the lore and the fantasy. So that is what it's all about. Thank you so much, Jordan. I love the voices that you guys did. Cali Cosplay, I think you had the best voice with Treebeard. You know what I'm saying? Lee tried with Gandalf. She tried. No, but it was dope. You guys all did a fantastic job. Kylie knows I'm playing with her. She did an amazing job. The reading went really well. Kelly, Miranda, all you guys did an excellent job, man. So I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of the readings with you guys. It's really dope.
Thanks, Nubetta. Jordan, I do have a question that I've been dying to ask on. If anyone has any other questions, prepare them now so we can pepper Jordan with questions before
Yeah, go
before
for
we
it.
let him go. Because it's rare that you have the mind that made this right here with you, right? I mean, this is just incredible, and Jordan, very inspiring. But you particularly made a point that it sounds better with headphones, and we did talk about how when we were reading, you could see sound like you could hear the movement of the horse. So can you kind of like describe all of that? You used a fancy word
Binaural,
by
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so when I'm making the soundscapes, I'm mixing it with Dolby Atmos, which is what all movies and a lot of shows now are delivered on, which is instead of just having a left speaker and a right speaker or having, 5.1, you have what are called objects. And those objects are a sound source that you can move anywhere you want in 3D space. And I can automate it so it moves and spins around or things like that. And what binaural is it simulates that 3D movement in your headphones, so you don't need to have all these speakers to make it sound like things are moving around you. So the nice thing is that it'll work on any set of headphones. It doesn't matter what you have. It's all kind of built into the sound. So all that movement that I'm doing in my end, it comes through your headphones. But it will try to do it through speakers, and it will have some success. But it really needs to have, because it's working with acoustics and things like that, it needs to have your ears as two kind of isolated sources, if that makes sense, to make that happen. But yeah, it all just works with any set of headphones, which is really nice.
I know
And
we had a question I wanted to ask. I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure
no,
the
no, it's
question
all
gets
good.
asked. I think it's a technical question. Miranda, can you key us in on that question for Jordan?
Oh, in the chat, we have, I wish there was a phone app to listen along with Audible. Hard to do, I bet. That's what your syncing app does, right?
Yeah, so I wish that Android and Apple would allow for you to have two different audio sources playing at the same time, but it won't. It won't let that happen. I did play around for a while trying to get an app of my own that would play at the same time as Audible, but the iOS won't let that happen. It'll either it'll like dedicate one to one channel and one to the other, or it just won't play at all. With Apple stuff, it just won't play at all. So I have tried that. It doesn't work. But with the syncing app, you put the two of them together, and then you can import it to Spotify or Apple Music or anything like that and play it just as if it was an audiobook. So I think it's as close a workaround as I can manage. And I think that it ends up being more solid than playing the two at the same time because it's one file. It's not trying to push play on two different things at the same time. Good question, though, and I definitely did try to. I tried to do that, but I am limited by what Apple and Android will allow me to do. So
That
yeah,
way to sync it is available on your website, right?
yep, it's just a very
Yeah.
simple app. You choose one folder with the soundscape, one folder with your audiobook, and you put them together, and it's good to go.
There you go.
Awesome.
What in your works doing Tolkien so far, what has been your favorite chapter that you've done or a little part that you've done
Ooh.
within a legendary?
Let's see. Overall, there's a lot of little moments. I really love the little moments of like this in the Strider chapter. There's a lot of small movements that are in there, like of them closing the shutters and stuff like that. Little things like the fire is crackling in that chapter. All the little moments like that are really nice to take a chapter that doesn't have all this big epic stuff happening and bring some life to it and make it feel like you're there. If I had to choose a chapter, though, that is my favorite or my favorite one to work on, it would actually probably be the Treebeard chapter or the House of Tom Bombadil. But those are my two favorite chapters, anyways. But
Very
yeah, House
strange,
of
sir.
Tom Bombadil.
Very
I
strange.
would probably choose.
Nah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
No, I can imagine how interesting that chapter is, and pairing sounds with his rhythmic t speaking and his tone and is probably incredible. So I look
I
forward
went.
to listening to your version of that.
I went to. That's one of my favorite chapters to listen to without the narration because if anyone knows Phil Dragish, who did that unofficial audiobook a while back, he does the best Tom Bombadil that I've ever heard. And I got Phil to do a little bit of singing, and he's in the background. You'll hear him wandering around outside and coming up to the door and stuff like that as Tom.
Key.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun
Very
for
key.
sure.
I'm interested to hear how you did the Fog on the Burrow Downs. I would love that. That one, I'm like,
There's some chaotic music in there.
chaotic and ambiance, and
Yeah.
can we hear the fog? Like, oh,
There's a lot of creepiness that, like, in terms of writing music, I think that the creepy chapters are the most fun to do. There's a lot of very interesting Shelob music that happens. The fight between Sam and Shelob is one of my favorite scenes musically. I think that it just came together really, really well. I could go on with other favorite things, but there's one of
They're
one
all
of my
fascinating. Don't no stop.
the fun thing for me is like,
to hear Moria.
oh, Moria, yeah. Well, if we want to, this is up to you guys because it's your deal. But if we want to, we could play a little tiny bit of the soundscape with Andy to hear what that's like in Moria.
Oh yeah.
If you would
Yeah,
like.
that'd be great.
I'd be down. Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna have to chat amongst yourselves for a second while I pull this up. But just think while I'm pulling this up too, one of the most fun things is, the audiobook is 63 hours long-ish. And so think of all the small little moments in there, when we're in the houses of healing. That's a good one. There's just small moments that you can kind of forget about when you're thinking about the story at a glance, Let's see here. What book am I looking forward to?
Something else that I am very interested is to hear the monsters kind of, because they don't make normal monster sounds, right? It's not like a tiger roaring or things that actually exist to us, right? So you couldn't go to the jungle or go to the zoo and get an audio of something there. So you had to get really creative, I'm sure. And like,
Yeah.
Like, what did you do for the Watcher in the Water?
oh,
Even the
I-
Balrog.
The Balrog is a really awesome story that I will tell. But let me find the start of this
okay,
really
well, let's
quickly.
let them find what.
I
For
remember things
yeah.
I remember things like when they were doing the sounds for the films for like Sounds of the Uruk-hai and stuff. They were going to like sports matches and recording the crowds at like I think there's one bit where I think it's like the Barmy Army, which is the England cricket fans.
Yeah.
At a test match it was part of it, and just like the most wild stuff like that. I'm also interested in like if you did any kind of Foley work for it, or was it
Yep.
you did? Okay, because that
Yep.
always intrigues me.
Yeah, and part of the Soundscape kind of experience has been developing how to do it over the course of
Yeah.
doing the project. So with the Wheel of Time and with The Hobbit especially, the process is honed a lot more. The style is different for those as well compared to Lord of the Rings, so it kind of lends itself okay for that process. But for Wheel of Time especially, I've been doing a lot more Foley, so putting in footsteps, putting in, people's like saddlebags moving and things like that, all these little moments. And yeah, I will tell the Balrog story. Do we want to hear that before or after this sample?
I want to hear the sample. I'm excited.
Sample. Okay, sample and then
Right.
story.
All right, here we go. Get some epic Moria stuff. Let me know if you can hear it.
7th level, that is 6 above the level of the gates. Come now, back to the hall. Gandalf had hardly spoken these words when there came a great noise, a rolling boom that seemed to come from depths far below, and to tremble in the stone at their feet. They sprang towards the door in alarm. Doom! Doom! It rolled again, as if huge hands were turning the very caverns of Moria into a vast drum. Then there came an echoing blast. A great horn was blown in the hall, and answering horns and harsh cries were heard further off. There was a hurrying sound of many feet. "They are coming," cried Legolas. "We cannot get out," said Gimli. "Trapped," cried Gandalf. "Why did I delay? Here we are, caught just as they were before. But I was not here then. We will see what doom, doom." Came the drumbeat, and the walls shook. "Slam the doors and wedge them," shouted Aragorn, "and keep your packs on as long as you can. We may get a chance to cut our way out yet." "No," said Gandalf, "we must not get shut in. Keep the east door ajar. We will go that way if we get a chance." Another harsh horn call and shrill cries rang out. Feet were coming down the corridor. There was a ring and clatter as the company drew their swords. Glamdring shone with a pale light, and Sting glinted at the edges. Boromir set his shoulder against the western door. "Wait a moment. Do not close it yet," said Gandalf. He sprang forward to Boromir's side and drew himself up to his full height. "Who comes hither to disturb the rest of Balin, Lord of Moria?" he cried in a loud voice. There was a rush of hoarse laughter, like the fall of sliding stones into a pit. Amid the clamor, a deep voice was raised in command. "Doom! Boom! Doom!" went the drums in the deep. With a quick movement, Gandalf stepped before the narrow opening of the door and thrust forward his staff. There was a dazzling flash that lit the chamber and the passage outside. For an instant, the wizard looked out. Arrows whined and whistled down the corridor as he sprang back. "There are orcs, very many of them," he said, "and some are large and evil, black Uruks of Mordor. For the moment they are hanging back, but there is something else there. A great cave troll, I think, or more than one. There is no hope of escape that way. And no hope at all if they come at the other door as well," said Boromir. "There is no sound outside here yet," said Aragorn, who was standing by the eastern door listening. "The passage on this side plunges straight down a stair. It plainly does not lead back towards the hall. But it is no good flying blindly this way with the pursuit just behind. We cannot block the door. Its key is gone, and the lock is broken, and it opens inwards. We must do something to delay the enemy first. We will make them fear the chamber of Mazabul," he said grimly, feeling the edge of his sword, Anduril. Heavy feet were heard in the corridor. Boromir flung himself against the door and heaved it to. Then he wedged it with broken sword blades and splinters of wood. The company retreated to the other side of the chamber, but they had no chance to fly yet. There was a blow on the door that made it quiver, and then it began to grind, slowly open, driving back the wedges. A huge arm and shoulder with a dark skin of greenish scales was thrust through the widening gap. Then a great, flat, toeless foot was forced through below. There was a dead silence outside. Boromir leapt forward and hewed at the arm with all his might, but his sword rang, glanced aside, and fell from his shaken hand. The blade was notched. Suddenly, and to his own surprise, Frodo felt a hot wrath blaze up in his heart. "The Shire!" he cried, and springing beside Boromir, he stooped and stabbed with sting at the hideous foot. There was a bellow and the foot jerked back, nearly wrenching Sting from Frodo's arm. Black drops dripped from the blade and smoked on the floor. Boromir hurled himself against the door and slammed it again. "One for the Shire," cried Aragorn. "The Hobbit's bite is deep. You have a good blade, Frodo, son of Drogo." There was a crash on the door, followed by crash after crash. Rams and hammers were beating against it. It cracked and staggered back, and the opening grew suddenly wide. Arrows came whistling in, but struck the northern wall and fell harmlessly to the floor. There was a horn blast and a rush of feet, and orcs, one after another, leapt into the chamber. How many there were the company could not count. The affray was sharp, but the orcs were dismayed by the fierceness of the defense. Legolas shot two through the throat. Gimli hewed the legs from under another that had sprung up on Balin's tomb. Boromir and Aragorn slew many. When 13 had fallen, the rest fled, shrieking, leaving the defenders unharmed, except for Sam, who had a scratch along the scalp.
Wow.
That was amazing. So does Andy Serkis know that you've made him more epic than epic? Like he's heard this, right?
I have not been able to share it with him, but I would love to at some point.
Okay.
The music, it transforms it from an audiobook into like a full-on like radio drama.
Yeah,
Like,
production.
Except it's not
yeah.
abridged in
Yeah.
any way, which is the best part.
yeah, that's how it feels, like the difference that the music makes to it. That's insane.
That was a lot of fun to put that one together for sure.
Yeah, it sounds so good.
It's really cool.
I guess I should tell the Balrog story now. Eh?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I grew up like a lot of us probably did, watching the making ofs for the movies, and so how they made those sounds is pretty stuck in my head. So I purposefully wanted to try something a little bit different, a little bit more kind of modern than what they had, I guess, back then, or just try it my own way. And I have a piece of software that when you give it audio, so if you talk into your microphone, it will play different audio in the shape of the audio that you've given it. So if I am speaking into my microphone and it's outputting fire, it will phrase it the way that I'm speaking or roaring or whatever. Okay. So if I like growl, it'll growl, but as fire. Okay. And I don't mean like my growl with fire, I mean only fire in the shape of a growl, inflection wise, if that makes sense.
Oh.
Doesn't.
It doesn't make sense?
Oh,
Okay.
all of us are like trying.
No, it
Is it like
does
the
to me,
actual
and that's so
sound
cool.
waves? Like it matches sound wave patterns?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It matches the sound wave pattern of whatever you're performing into it. So if I were to do a nice big roar and my output is a tiger roar instead, it will react the same way I'm speaking, right? So each one of my words right now would come out as like short growls following
Like those
everything.
keyboards that you had as a kid, and you could change it to be like different
Yeah.
sounds, but the same key, right?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
No, I understand that. Like, I understand replacing the sound. What do you mean with fire? What do you mean?
I can make the sound that it outputs whatever I want. So I have a bunch of flame elements that I load into it, and then it pulls from that to kind of imitate the performance. Okay, so it basically has like this fire constantly going, but it only outputs it if my voice triggers it to output. Does that make more sense?
No, that is not what I'm talking about. That completely makes absolutely sense.
Okay.
Where are you getting the sound of the fire? Like
Oh,
what
okay.
fire? Like is it a crackling fire? Is it a blowtorch fire?
Oh,
Is it
it's a mix of a bunch of those. There's lava elements in there too. I have a bunch of sound libraries and some that I recorded myself again. But yeah, crackles, stone movement, a lot of those kind of things. I have massive libraries that I pull from. The library that I use actually is from it's a Mark Mangini collection. Who Mark is the sound designer for Dune and things like that, Blade Runner. So those are a lot of where I pull those sounds from. But I also, again, have ones that I've recorded myself. And then my friend Tyler, who is an amazing voice actor, and he's been on my Tolkien Reading Day streams before. Um, and he's the voice of Gollum in the background of chapters. You'll hear him hissing and things like that. We set up the scene with the Balrog, and he just performed it as if he was the Balrog. He just pretended to be the Balrog. And each one of his growls and things like that came out as these flame kind of stone rocky growls. And so when you hear it, it's pretty much one take of him just performing the whole scene, like reacting to the fight, all this kind of stuff. So that was a lot of fun. We had a blast doing that for sure. But yeah, so that's kind of how the Balrog came to life. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense.
Wow.
Incredible. I've never thought of any of this. That's so cool.
Yeah, and that's why I will say that's why me doing these Kickstarters is so important, so that I can have time to first of all think these things through, but then to do it, to record it, to mix it, to write the music, to collect the sounds, etc., etc., etc. The list goes on. But yeah,
This is like a side hobby, or is this like your
This is what you do.
profession, or this, a little bit of both?
thanks to the Kickstarters, it's been my full time pretty much.
great.
I teach at the local college here as well. I teach the program that I took about 10 years ago, the sound design course. But yeah, a lot of it is, I wake up and tackle a new chapter basically every day. And I rotate through, like sometimes I'm usually like a normal day would usually be like outlining a few chapters. That's like laying out where sound effects and things are going to go. And then I might do some sound design. I might do some music writing, etc. throughout the day. So that's kind of the gist of what I'm up to.
Can you like bounce between projects, or do you, when you set out to
have
do,
to. I
you
have to,
really,
yeah.
even in like
I-
a single day, you're in
Totally,
like Lord of the
yeah.
Rings, and then you're in Wheel of Time, and
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a lot harder of a time actually sticking with one of them. And I think that it kind of creatively gives me a whole new kind of fresh breath of air to step out of Lord of the Rings and go to Wheel of Time for a bit, and then step out of that and go and work on. I have the ones that I'm focusing on from Kickstarter, which are Wheel of Time and the Silmarillion and such. But I have the others that are in the background that I'm working on, like A Song of Ice and Fire, Dune. What else? I was working on a bit of Foundation the other day, things like that. Just kind of, creatively to put my head somewhere else for a bit and then come back later. A lot of the time I need, like if I got to the Balrog scene and haven't really thought about it, on like how I want to approach it, usually I will just leave it and go to something else and kind of let it stew in the background for a little while and think it through. So that's usually how I work on stuff, just chaotically.
And when you experience the world, do you hear noises that we don't hear? Do you have like just a soundtrack going for every location that you go in? Like just the way you think must be so different from the way that I think.
I don't know about
It's
that.
amazing.
I definitely like whenever I'm all the time I'm listening to audiobooks. I don't really read physical books. I have them, but I don't listen. I don't read them. I listen. And so it's getting more and more difficult now to read or to listen to an audiobook without imagining what I would do in those scenes. So I'm going through the Malazan Book of the Fallen right now, which is a massive fantasy series, and it's very hard to not imagine every scene for that. So, but it's
You have
exciting.
the flip of that as well, whereas like anytime you go somewhere and you hear ambient noises, you're like, oh, I could use that.
I definitely get that sometimes too. It's tricky, like because I live in the city. there's a lot of ambient stuff that I just could never use because it's too modern sounding. That's why I had to drive far away to collect the Shire ambience and stuff like that. But it makes it interesting, like in the Wheel of Time, there's a very kind of otherworldly realm that we go to at one point, and the ambience for that is industrial kind of city ambience slowed down to like 10%. So you'd never know that it was that, but it gives, a kind of otherworldly feel to it. So I just, every chapter is an interesting little challenge to try and figure out what to do. And that's not even discussing like, when the music is going to happen and when it's not going to happen, and when the sound effects are going to happen and when they're not, and how specific is too specific on things and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to think about for each one, for sure. But I'm lucky to have, with the Wheel of Time and with Lord of the Rings, I have a lot of, friends, and I have some executive producers from my Kickstarters that are at the high tiers that I'll send samples to, or I'll ask questions and I'll say, does Rao Ross sound like it's far enough away in this scene? Things like that, or does this theme work well for this, or does it not, etc. Because obviously with Lord of the Rings, I'm trying to emulate Howard Shore, but not copy any of the motifs or anything like that. And I think it gets decently close to that feeling. And you can kind of do the same thing with Song of Ice and Fire, where the musical palette is so clearly established. But then you get into something like Wheel of Time, where we're only a couple seasons in, the music is there, but it's been evolving over the seasons. And so there's not like a signature sound as much to it yet. So I'm having to create my own for it, which is really interesting. Yeah.
Prefer that freedom, or is it easier when there is like a set sort of sound to go for?
I think that what really makes it easier is actually just the thoroughness of how well I know the story. When I was doing Lord of the Rings, there was no point in doing the music where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, if that makes sense. Because I knew, the whole time I'm going through the score, I'm thinking about all the times that I've read it, all the hours that I've spent listening to Corey Olsen talk about it. And a lot of the time, especially for Lord of the Rings, because I edit for the Prancing Pony podcast, I have their conversations like rolling in the back of my head of what's important, what's the focus and things like that. So yeah, it was, of all the projects that I've done, Lord of the Rings has definitely been the easiest in terms of composing, because there was no point really where I wasn't sure what I wanted to outline already. The Hobbit was pretty self-explanatory as well. But getting into more close-up perspectives, like in A Song of Ice and Fire, it makes it a little bit trickier because you have to balance what you, the reader, knows with what the perspective knows. And you can't necessarily have like a sinister theme for a character if that perspective doesn't know that character is sinister. All these types of composing decisions to make. So it's fun though. That's the thing. It's all awesome and fun to do.
Like each series presents a different challenge, because
Totally.
with A Song of Ice and Fire, it's that third person limited viewpoint. So it's like you can only go by what that character knows.
And you think about how that translates to music, like when you have a character like Sansa who early on looks at another character in a loving way, her version of that character's theme is probably going to be very romanticized, whereas you go to a different perspective and it's going to be, totally
So,
different.
like her early scenes with Joffrey, for example,
Yeah, totally.
when she still thinks he's like
Exactly.
compared with like Arya's viewpoint of Joffrey.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Really interesting.
really fun creativity you can have there. And like with Dune, I've been playing around with thinking about how the visions can play into it all, and you could have like echoes of the sound design of an event that's going to happen later
Yeah.
exist earlier. So as I've been working through Dune, I've kind of come to the decision that I'm going to do it in reverse, so that I'll do the last scenes and then work my way back so that I can use them in previous scenes, you know?
It's like you're putting in musical subtext
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
That's
cool.
really
A
cool.
lot of fun.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Katie has asked a question in the chat. She says, how would you have scored War of the Rohirrim? Would you have done it similar to Showard Shaw to Gallagher, and what would you have done differently?
Good question. Um, I think that there's a really interesting thing going on with movies and shows right now, where sometimes they lean too heavily into existing music, and sometimes they don't lean heavily enough into the existing music. I think that Stephen Gallagher did a really great job of balancing that. I think that you could have had. It's tricky because if you start to introduce more of the familiar Rohan themes, then it just pulls you into Two Towers. Like that's all you're thinking about is those scenes in Two Towers. And it's the same thing, you see it a lot in the Star Wars fandom where people will rescore scenes with music from the original trilogy or whatever it is. And while it can look and sound really cool, it pulls you out of the moment, puts you into that other movie instead. So it's a tricky balance.
And I think it was a balancing act a lot with for War of the Rohirrim generally, of like how much to draw from the films and how much to be its own thing.
Yeah,
And yeah, the music obviously was part of that as well.
for sure.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about Silmarillion music
Yeah.
now.
It's
It's in
coming.
my head now.
It's
Do
coming.
you ever use vocals, like someone singing, or is it mostly instrumental stuff?
There's choirs, a lot of
There
choir
are?
stuff
Okay.
in there. Yeah. There's very few lyrics that are in there because it would be too distracting.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, I have a few different types of choirs that I use. In the latter half of the Return of the King, there's a good amount. And
Have
there's
you heard New Better Do Better's angelic singing? Because I'm sure you would have used that for your choirs
replace
if
it
you
all.
had. Yeah,
Replace
just
it all. Yeah.
With the choirs, do you have them perform stuff that you composed for them
A lot
too?
of the time when I'm doing composing, I'm using sample libraries of choirs, of string sections, etc., which are real people that are recorded and then manipulated by how I use it. But I have had a couple of, individuals, guest musicians, adding to the different soundscapes. So in the House of Tom Bombadil, for example, I have a good friend Betsy who plays harp in Goldberry's Washing Day. So there are some individuals that get their moment to do a little bit of stuff, which is really fun. And Wheel of Time has a lot of that because there's a lot of, Glee Man performers, in the cities and stuff. So I have guest musicians that are doing that throughout. A lot of fun little cameos like that. Yeah, for sure.
That's really cool.
All right. Any last questions for Jordan? With anybody in chat or in the Zoom call or thank you. Not a question, I guess, but yeah, thank you so much. That was really, really cool. I enjoyed that
Thank
a
you.
lot. And I think our listeners enjoyed that a lot too. That was neat.
That was incredibly insightful.
Awesome.
And
Thanks
it
for
was
having
great to
me.
be able to chat to you and like hear your ideas. And it's really overwhelmingly inspiring when someone like you with just the vision and the ability to execute the vision, right? Like those are, sometimes those two things don't match up, but they certainly have for you.
Yeah.
And so this is a piece of art, and thank
Well,
you.
I'm definitely hugely thankful to my, to my Kickstarter backers that, otherwise I would never have had the time to dedicate to this and to keep it going. And the Wheel of Time is a long series, so I'm hoping to get to the end of it, and that would be great. I'm going to do it anyways, but how long that takes is kind of dependent on them.
Neat.
You also said you've
And-
got Children of Húrin coming up.
And Children of
soon as
Hurin,
well.
and I want to do the other great tales as well. I already have ideas of switching between Christopher's, commentary being in like a modern kind of setting with piano music, and then swapping back and forth between the story and Christopher's commentary. I already have ideas for that, but
Wow.
yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then it would be fun to do small, like, little things for like the Christmas letters and Roverandom and things like that eventually,
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of potential. And then they just got to make the History of Middle Earth into audiobooks, and then we're good. We'll do that.
Yes.
Yeah, who do we have to talk to about that? Because I would
Everybody
really want
email.
that too.
Everybody send an email to.
Harper Collins.
Yeah. And everyone make sure you check out Jordan's Kickstarter so he can keep bringing us this amazing awesomeness. We need to support him so he can make this happen. This is incredible. So yeah, thank you everyone. Anyone else? Anything else? Jordan, you want a last word?
I'm always around on my Discord, so if anyone has questions, you can always come and chat there. You can find it on my website and all that stuff.
All right.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for having me.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I can't cut the live stream for 15 more seconds because I always cut us off before we end our closing remarks. So I will give us a few seconds for the lag and then we will be off the air.
Thank you for watching, everybody.